I used to think that I wasn't fine enough. Now you can wait your whole life wondering when it's gonna come or where it's been. Rough, can't believe me. Incapable of loving like that. Just to think about it, I would do things that I would regret. Trying to get you to. I told you once, I told you twice. You love me, yeah. You complete me. Butterfly in the sky, fly so high. I remember when my heart broke. I wanna be the one who you believe in your heart is sent from heaven. Stay around thinking you will learn to love, yearning for your touch. Come and set me free, 'cause you give me my heart, give me my love. Oh, yes, I found you didn't want to stay. You were ready to leave.
Keyshia Cole made one mistake and it changed everything for her. It wasn't a scandal, bad music, or the usual decline that happens to artists over time. She didn't just fade away, she was pushed out. And all because of one decision. She spoke against Beyoncé. Back in 2013, Keyshia tweeted about Beyoncé's song Bow Down, calling her out for what she saw as hypocrisy. She felt the message in the song went against the empowerment Beyoncé had always promoted. It was just a few tweets, nothing outrageous, just an artist sharing an opinion. But that moment turned out to be the breaking point of her career. The backlash was immediate. Beyoncé's fan base, the Beyhive, didn't just disagree, they went on the attack. They flooded Keyshia's social media, radio stations pulled her, songs and major producers stopped working with her. Even The Dream, one of the biggest hitmakers in R&B, publicly stated he wouldn't collaborate with her anymore. All of this over a tweet. But was it really about just an opinion? Or was Keyshia blacklisted from the industry? If you think this was just a case of an angry fan base overreacting, think again. This was about power, influence, and an industry that goes to great lengths to protect its biggest stars. And what happened next made one thing clear. Once you go against Beyoncé, there's no coming back. At first glance, it might seem like Keyshia simply fell off, like her music stopped connecting with audiences. But that's not what happened. In the mid-2000s, Keyshia was one of the biggest names in R&B. Her debut album, The Way It Is, went platinum, and she followed it up with even bigger hits like Let It Go and I Should Have Cheated. She wasn't just another singer. She was a major force in the industry. Unlike many of her peers, Keyshia was known for being real and unfiltered. She didn't hold back. If she had something to say, she said it. And for a while, that made fans love her even more. But there was one rule in the music industry that you don't break. You don't go against Beyoncé. By 2013, Beyoncé wasn't just a singer, she was an institution. She had built a flawless image, controlled her public persona with precision, and had a fan base that viewed her as untouchable. And the Beyhive wasn't just any fan base, they were an army. If you criticized Beyoncé, they didn't just argue with you, they made sure you paid for it. Keyshia's mistake was thinking she could speak her mind and move on. The moment she hit send on that tweet, her career took a turn she never saw coming. The first warning sign? Producers started cutting ties. The Dream, a producer who had worked with the biggest names in music, including Rihanna, Mariah Carey, and Kanye West, was one of the first to distance himself. In an interview, he was asked if he'd work with Keyshia again, and his response was clear. Right now, because of what happened, I can't. And I think she would respect why I can't. That's Beyoncé. That's family. Translation? If you go against Beyoncé, you go against everyone in her circle. And The Dream wasn't just making a personal choice, it was about industry politics. Associating with Keyshia wasn't worth the risk. Then, radio. Stations stopped playing her music. Before 2013, Keyshia's songs were in heavy rotation. Tracks like Love and Let It Go were R&B staples. But after the controversy, her airplay dried up. It wasn't an immediate drop, but over time, her songs got less and less attention. Then came the real damage: album sales. Her third album, A, Different Me was a massive success, going platinum and debuting at number 2 on the Billboard 200. But after her fallout with Beyoncé, her next album struggled. Calling All Hearts and Woman to Woman didn't perform as well, and by the time she released Point of No Return, the decline was undeniable. It sold just 25,000 copies in its first week, a huge drop from her previous numbers. Even her most loyal fans noticed something had changed. It wasn't just that her music wasn't as successful, it was as if she was being erased from the industry altogether. And the most surprising part? Beyoncé never had to say a word. She didn't reply to Keyshia's tweets. She didn't comment on the situation. She didn't need to. The industry already knew what to do. Nobody wanted to upset Beyoncé or her fans, so they quietly shut Keyshia out. One moment she was on top, the next she was struggling to stay relevant. But was this really just about Beyoncé? Or was something bigger happening behind the scenes? Because when you look at what happened next, it's clear this wasn't just about losing a few fans. It was about the industry making sure Keyshia Cole was no longer a threat. Beyoncé has mastered the art of silence. While other celebrities get involved in drama or defend themselves against criticism, she does the opposite. She lets her fans take care of it for her. And that's exactly what happened to Keyshia. After her tweets, Beyoncé didn't have to respond. She didn't have to defend herself or call out Keyshia. The Beyhive handled it. And they didn't just send a few angry messages, they went all in. Keyshia's social media was flooded with insults and threats. Fans demanded she apologize. Her mentions turned into a battleground. The message was clear. If you come for Beyoncé, your career is over. But it wasn't just about the fans. The Beyhive is so powerful that even music executives, producers, and media outlets avoid getting on their bad side. This is why Keyshia's radio play disappeared. This is why producers like The Dream backed away. This is why her album sales tanked. Not because Beyoncé told anyone to stop supporting her, but because the industry knows how this works. If you cross Beyoncé, you become irrelevant. And Beyoncé's silence only made things worse. By not acknowledging the situation, she let the story build on its own. Keyshia started being seen as the jealous artist who disrespected the queen. And in the music industry, once you get labeled as bitter, it's over. It didn't matter that Keyshia was once one of the biggest names in R&B. It didn't matter that she had multiple platinum albums. The moment she challenged Beyoncé, none of that counted anymore. Her 2014 album Point of No Return sold only 25,000 copies in its first week, an enormous drop compared to her past releases. The singles from the album barely made it onto the charts, and radio stations that once played her music regularly stopped giving her the same support. Some might call it a coincidence, but it wasn't just her music career that suffered. Her reality TV career also lost its momentum. Keyshia had found success with her reality shows on BET. Her first show, Keyshia Cole, The Way It Is, was a hit, giving fans an intimate look into her life. It helped her connect with audiences on a deeper level, making her even more relatable. But when she returned with another show, Keyshia and Daniel, Family First, something was missing. The show didn't get the same ratings, and people noticed that she seemed frustrated and distant. It was no longer just about music. Every aspect of her career was taking a hit. Even the connections she had built in the industry began to fade. Before the controversy, she was working with top producers and artists like The Dream and Missy Elliott. But after the drama, those collaborations became rare. The music industry runs on relationships, and once you lose them, it becomes almost impossible to stay relevant. Keyshia, who was once embraced by the industry, found herself increasingly isolated. And here's the strange part. This wasn't just happening to her. There was a pattern. Artists who spoke out or went against certain figures often saw their careers crumble. Keyshia wasn't the first to experience this, and she wouldn't be the last. Look at Carrie Hilson. She was on top after hits like Knock You Down and Pretty Girl Rock, but after she allegedly dissed Beyoncé in a song, her career never recovered. Tamar Braxton had a promising future, but found herself shut out of the industry after calling out influential people in R&B. Even comedian Monique, who isn't a musician, was blacklisted in Hollywood after speaking up about Oprah and Tyler Perry. The pattern is clear. When you go against certain powerful figures, you don't just lose popularity, you lose opportunities, connections, and access. But the craziest part? It's never official. No one sends an email saying, "You're banned from the industry." There's no public announcement. Instead, the calls stop coming, projects don't get approved, producers suddenly aren't available, and your songs stop getting airplay. People start whispering, "Oh, they fell off." But did they really? Or were they pushed out? Keyshia kept making music, releasing albums, and trying to move forward, but something was different. The industry machine that once supported her was gone. The same industry that helped her rise to fame had now turned its back on her. And once that happens, making a full comeback is nearly impossible. This isn't just about Keyshia, it's about control in the music industry. Her story proves success isn't just about talent, it's about loyalty. If you're seen as disloyal, you're done. At this point, it's about Beyoncé's power. She's more than an artist. She's a brand, a movement, a cultural force. Criticizing her is rare, not because people lack opinions, but because they fear the consequences. The Bayhive alone keeps most critics silent, but it's deeper than that. The industry protects Beyoncé because her success benefits record labels, streaming services, and media outlets. When someone threatens that image, they don't just face backlash, they disappear. Keyshia didn't lose her career because of bad music or declining popularity. She was shut out, not by Beyoncé directly, but by an industry that shields its biggest stars. This isn't about whether Beyoncé or her fans are too powerful. It's about how the industry works. You don't need an official blacklist to be blackballed.